Part 2 of our journey from Vermont to Indiana took us to a rare lighthouse, historic battlefields, and the Village of Knives. Hop in, we've got some stories to uncover. And stick around to the end. Nicole's turning one of these scenes into a painting, and you won't want to miss the reveal. Driving along Route 3 on the western shore of Lake Ontario, we almost missed it, but I'm glad we didn't because this was a fun stop in Sackets Harbor, a lot of history, and quite a few surprises. Standing along the shoreline in Sackets Harbor, you can feel the history. This quiet Lake Ontario village once stood at the center of a war. Founded in 1801 by Augustus Sackett, the harbor quickly became valuable for one simple reason: protection. Its deep, sheltered waters made it the perfect naval base. When the War of 1812 broke out, Sackets Harbor transformed almost overnight into the primary U.S. naval headquarters on the Great Lakes. Shipbuilders worked around the clock, soldiers filled the streets. By 1814, thousands of troops and workers were stationed here, briefly making it one of the largest communities in northern New York. Then came May 29, 1813. During the Battle of Sackets Harbor, British forces attacked by land and water. American troops successfully defended the village, though they burned parts of their own naval stores to keep them from falling into enemy hands. Imagine the smoke drifting over the harbor where sailboats glide today. And the history still stands today. A walk or drive through the village and you'll see preserved federal-style buildings from the early 1800s, including the Union Hotel built in 1817. It operated as a hotel in the 19th century and today serves as a museum holding 2 centuries of stories. And the historic Sackett Mansion, built in the early 1800s by village's founder Augustus Sackett, operates today as a visitor center and museum, welcoming guests with exhibits that tell the story of the harbor's naval importance in wartime past. Today, about 1,300 people call this place home. It's peaceful now, but for a few pivotal years, Sackets Harbor helped shape the outcome of a war, right here on the water's edge. Still driving along Route 3, we've seen some really cool old barns today. Nicole saw ahead that there was a lighthouse, and whenever there's a lighthouse within, say, 100 miles, we have to go check it out. At the mouth of the Salmon River, you'll find one of Lake Ontario's quiet treasures, the Salmon River Lighthouse, also known as the Selkirk Lighthouse. The lighthouse was first lit in 1838, built to guide ships navigating the busy waters of Lake Ontario and safely into the Salmon River Harbor. At the time, the river supported lumbering, shipping, and local industry. But the structure itself is unique, a keeper's house built of stone with a wooden tower rising from the roof, topped by a rare birdcage-style lantern. Only a few of these early lanterns still survive in the United States. But the river's importance faded faster than anyone expected. By 1858, less than 20 years after it was first illuminated, the light was deactivated as commerce had declined. Unlike many lighthouses that stood lonely and abandoned, this one found new life. In the late 19th century, it became part of a lakeside hotel property, welcoming summer visitors instead of sailors. It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1979, and in 1989, a Coast Guard-approved light was reinstalled once again, casting a beam across Lake Ontario. Today it stands not just as a relic, but as a reminder that even when ships stop coming, history finds a way to stay lit. If you followed us at all, you will not be surprised that with Nicole's love of lighthouses, and with this one being rare and unique, that she will paint this lighthouse for this episode. Just like Nicole likes to chase lighthouses, when I see a historical road marker or road sign, I have to pull over and check it out. Unfortunately, these snowbanks were so high and I didn't have boots on, so I had to check it out from afar. Zooming in, it was describing the generals and commanders during the War of 1812 and where they were positioned in different areas. We soon came into Oswego and followed signs to Fort Ontario. If you've ever stood on the bluff overlooking Lake Ontario in Oswego, you've probably noticed the commanding presence of Fort Ontario. It's one of those places where the wind feels like it's carrying centuries of stories. The first fort here was built by the British in 1755 during the French and Indian War to protect vital trade routes and control access between the Great Lakes and the interior of New York. Just 3 years later, in 1758, French forces attacked and destroyed it, but the position was too important to abandon. The British rebuilt it in 1759, stronger and more determined. Fort Ontario played a strategic role during the American Revolution. Because of its location at the mouth of the Oswego River, it controlled a key supply route between the Great Lakes and the interior of New York. During the war, the British held the fort and used it as a base to support Loyalists and Native American raids into the Mohawk Valley and frontier settlements. Its position made it a vital link in Britain's effort to maintain influence in the region. The fort we see today largely dates to the 1830s and later 19th century improvements. Today, Fort Ontario is a state historic site. It's peaceful now, but this hilltop has seen empires rise, flags changed, and lives forever altered, all while watching over Lake Ontario. Oswego is a lakeside town with a rich, often overlooked history. Settled in the late 1700s, Oswego grew quickly thanks to its deep harbor, making it a key point for trade, shipping, and industry along the lake. By the 19th century, Oswego had become a bustling port, exporting grain, lumber, and salt, while welcoming sailors and merchants from near and far. Its waterfront was lined with warehouses, shipyards, and commercial buildings, many of which still give downtown a historic charm. The city also played a role in education and culture, home to SUNY Oswego, founded in 1861, which brought learning and innovation to the region. With festivals, lakeside views, and a strong maritime heritage, Oswego today blends its past with a vibrant present, quietly reminding visitors that this harbor city has always been more than just a stop on the map. You don't have to look far to find the Oswego River and the Oswego Canal running straight through town. The canal was completed in 1828 and was part of New York State's ambitious canal system, connecting the Erie Canal to Lake Ontario. It transformed Oswego from a local port into a major shipping hub, allowing grain, lumber, and other goods to flow easily between the interior of the state and the Great Lakes. Barges and packet boats became a common sight along its locks and basins, linking communities and commerce in ways previously impossible. Over the years, the canal shaped the city's waterfront and economy, leaving behind historic lock structures and scenic towpaths that you can still walk or bike today. While modern shipping has moved on, the Oswego Canal remains a living reminder of the ingenuity and ambition that helped New York grow, a serene, watery highway with nearly 200 years of history flowing through it. We left Oswego and traffic began to fade. We headed to our hotel for the night to get ready for a big day tomorrow. And this is a good time to check in on Nicole and see how she's doing. We woke up to freezing cold temperatures and a blustery snowstorm. We decided to head south into the rolling hills of western New York, which we've never ventured into. And it sounded like a good idea until we hit this snowstorm, and then we thought twice about it. The snow faded as we entered the town of Ellicottville. If you're headed into the hills of western New York, the moment you pass through the village green in Ellicottville, you get the sense you've arrived someplace with personality and history. Long before it became a favorite for skiers and vacationers, Ellicottville's story began in the early 1800s. The area was first settled around 1815 and was named for the Ellicott family. Joseph Ellicott and his brothers, who were influential land agents for the Holland Land Company, overseeing the opening of much of western New York to settlement. By 1820, Ellicottville had grown enough that it was designated the county seat of Cattaraugus County, a role it would hold for much of the 19th century. During that era, the village was a bustling hub for local farmers, merchants, and travelers. Inns and taverns lined the streets, and the courthouse, hotels, and businesses gave it a lively civic feel. Horse-drawn wagons came and went along the roads connecting the southern tier to towns across the region. But as railroads bypassed some of the older routes later in the 1800s, Ellicottville's prominence faded, and its population stabilized. That quiet proved to be a blessing in the mid-20th century when outdoor recreation began to take hold. By the mid-1950s and 60s, Ellicottville's terrain and snowfall caught the attention of skiing enthusiasts. What had been farmland and woodlands gave way to ski trails. The opening of ski areas like Holiday Valley brought a new chapter: winter tourists, lodges, and ski culture. Summer followed with golf courses, festivals, and arts, drawing visitors year-round. Today, Ellicottville's historic Main Street brims with restaurants, boutiques, and galleries set in beautifully preserved 19th century buildings, a blend of old village charm and lively resort town energy. From its beginnings as a county crossroads to its reinvention as one of New York's premier outdoor destinations, Ellicottville has continually adapted while holding on to its roots. Small in size, fewer than 2,000 residents, but big in character, it's one of those places where the past and present meet on a snowy slope or a sunny summer street festival. When we reached the top, we had a beautiful view of the valley below and realized why the next town was called Little Valley. If you blink, you might miss Little Valley. But it has a story that runs deeper than its quiet streets suggest. Settled in the early 1800s and officially incorporated as a village in 1876, Little Valley became the county seat of Cattaraugus County, a big responsibility for a small place. By the late 19th century, it was bustling with law offices, shops, and travelers moving through the Allegheny foothills. But what really sets Little Valley apart was its role in the cutlery industry. Yep, it was known as the Village of Knives. It was home to the Cattaraugus Cutlery Company and other knife makers like the Case brothers. These manufacturers produced high-quality pocket knives, straight razors, and kitchen cutlery that were shipped across the country. At one point, more knives were made here than in many parts of Europe. Today, the village celebrates this heritage with the annual Village of Knives celebration, drawing collectors and enthusiasts from far and wide. At its peak in the early 1900s, Little Valley thrived as a center of commerce and craftsmanship. Today, fewer than 1,500 people call it home. It's quieter now, surrounded by rolling farmland and wooded hills, but the legacy of industry, skill, and community still cuts deep. Small? Yes, but in western New York, Little Valley has long been a place where history and knives were made. As we leave Little Valley, we're going to end this episode right here, and we're going to check in with Nicole in just a minute. But before we do, we wanted to leave with a little cliffhanger. The beginning of our next episode, part 3 on our trip to Indiana, starts with a surprise that some of you may love. So check back in with us next Sunday. And as always, thank you for riding along. And here's Nicole with her final painting.